Welcome to episode 49 of Kowalski Analysis. I'm your host, Rob B. Kowalski, and tonight we have a very special guest, maybe my biggest guest ever, and that is Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North. So many of you may remember Colonel Oliver North from the early 90s. I know I do, and it's just really exciting to talk to him. He is one of those figures that were part of my growing up that I saw on television all the time, and he happens to be a strong man of God. So I'm very excited to talk to him. But before I do, I want to give a shout out to my sponsor as always, and that is Micah Hughes. And Micah does everything real estate. If you're looking to buy a home, sell a home, or just get into real estate investing, please give Micah a call or a text, 443-532-8450, and you can email him, and I'll put his information in the show notes as always. So let me just go ahead and introduce my guest, and then I'll go ahead and bring him in. So Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North is a combat decorated U.S. Marine, author of 18 best-selling books. He was a columnist and a host of war stories on Fox. He served as the 66th president of the National Rifle Association, the NRA of America, and he is the CEO of Fidelis Publishing and co-founder of Freedom Alliance, an organization serving wounded U.S. military personnel and their families. Colonel North and his wife, Betsy, live in Virginia. They have been married for 51 years. They have 4 children and 18 grandkids. Wow. Recently, in October of 2020, his newest book, Veterans Lament was His newest book, Veterans Lament, was released as a wake-up call to action for all Americans. In his own words, securing the future of America is not a liberal versus conservative or a Democrat versus Republican issue. It's an issue for all Americans. Let's bring in our guest. Welcome to episode 49 of Kowalski Analysis. I'm your host, Rob B. Kowalski, and tonight we have a very special guest, maybe my biggest guest ever, and that is Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North. Many of you may remember Colonel Oliver North from the early 90s. I know I do, and it's just really exciting to talk to him. He is one of those figures that were part of my growing up that I saw on television all the time, and he happens to be a strong man of God. So I'm very excited to talk to him. But before I do, I want to give a shout out to my sponsor as always, and that is Micah Hughes. And Micah does everything real estate. If you're looking to buy a home, sell a home, or just get into real estate investing, please give Micah a call or a text, 443-532-8450, and you can email him, and I'll put his information in the show notes as always. So let me just go ahead and introduce my guest, and then I'll go ahead and bring him in. So Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North is a combat decorated U.S. Marine, author of 18 best-selling books. He was a columnist and a host of war stories on Fox. He served as the 66th president of the National Rifle Association, the NRA of America, and he is the CEO of Fidelis Publishing and co-founder of Freedom Alliance, an organization serving wounded U.S. military personnel and their families. Colonel North and his wife, Betsy, live in Virginia. They have been married for 51 years. They have 4 children and 18 grandkids. Wow. His newest book, Veterans Lament, was released as a wake-up call to action for all Americans. In his own words, securing the future of America is not a liberal versus conservative or a Democrat versus Republican issue. It's an issue for all Americans. Let's bring in our guest. Welcome to episode 49 of Kowalski Analysis, Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North.
Good to be with you, brother. Thank you.
So good to have you. I'm honored. You are like a figure from I don't want to say my childhood because I wasn't that young, but just getting out of high school, and it's a real honor to meet you.
It was a long time ago.
It was. I'm showing my age.
A lot of water over the dam.
Yeah. So you served 22 years in the military. Can you just
I served 22 years as a commissioned officer in the Marines. I enlisted in the United States Marine Corps Reserve on the 29th of December, 1961. That was before you were even thought of.
Yeah.
And so I got my appointment to the Naval Academy from the Marine Reserves, graduated in the class of 68, My wife and I got married the day we graduated from a basic course at Quantico, Virginia, planning on 35 days of leave because I'd stored it all up. For a honeymoon driving across America. We were in Waco, Texas, driving across the country in a borrowed car. And I'd left my leave address. We didn't have cell phones and internet and all that stuff in those days. So my dad, who was a World War II hero in the United States Army, and the first hero I ever knew, was my leave address. And he got a telegram. I called home every night to find out everything's still good, right? And was supposed to be in San Diego just before Christmas. And ended up, I was in Vietnam. Well, what he said was, I got terrible news for you and your brand new wife. And he and my mom had been at my wedding, or our wedding. And he said, you have to be in San Diego in 72 hours. And I said, so I will tell you this, a brand new wife, it's snowing. And I drove nonstop, the two of us. Thankfully, there was no Columbia gas line or pipeline problems. But drove all the way out there, got on an airplane, and I was in Vietnam as a rifle platoon commander by Thanksgiving.
Wow.
Pretty short honeymoon.
Yeah.
We're promising each other we're going to take one of those before the two of us pass. We're going to get a real honeymoon.
Well, 51 years, so you must have done something right.
No, 53 now. Yeah.
53. Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry about that.
Years. No, it's okay. Got married in November 13th, 1968.
Wow.
And by Thanksgiving, I was in Vietnam as a rifle platoon commander. Obviously, a wonderful opportunity to lead. Difficult circumstances. The worst day of my life was the 28th of July, 1969. I lost more Marines in that one night attack against us than I lost in 2 full tours out there in Vietnam.
Yeah, I was reading some of the awards that you got for that. I think you get the Purple Heart and was it something else, the Silver
Star. But
Silver Star.
The thing about a Purple Heart, I took 2 of them. I did not take the 3rd, 4th, and 5th ones because they pull you out of the field after 3. And I didn't want to leave my Marines. And at risk of sounding like hubris, I was a damn fine lieutenant and infantry officer. And we killed a lot of bad guys.
Yeah.
We were right up on the DMZ. And so I look back at that experience and say, yeah, there's some terrible things that happened, but I had the great privilege of leading at the time the brightest, best trained, best, bravest group of men that you could ever find. And every one of the guys in my rifle platoon is 46 Marines, 1 lieutenant, a staff sergeant, and 3 rifle squads and a weapons squad. And there were 72 Marines that rotated through that unit, some going home healthy, thank God, some in body bags, some wounded out. But 72 Marines rotated through that rifle platoon. 31 of us are still alive today. Many of them have cancer from Agent Orange because we swam in it up on the DMZ. We drank it, bathed in it, washed our clothes in it. In streams out in the northern part of the country was known as I Corps, the first Corps area. And we were right up on the DMZ the whole time, except for one very brief stint down south. They brought us down because we knew how to fight in mountains. And we did. It was very mountainous terrain, very tough, a lot of uphill and downhill, carrying 70 pounds on your back. But these were remarkably brave, tenacious, committed young Americans, every one of whom was a volunteer.
What do you think about the state of where we're at now in this country it feels like there's an attack on masculinity?
Yeah, there is. I mean, it's not just that. It's, the current Defense Department apparently wants us all in uniform to become social justice warriors. They're pledging to take out anybody who's an extremist and get them out of the service. I'm not sure exactly what that means. Does that mean if you're a member of, let's say, Knights of Columbus or Officers Christian Fellowship or one of those organizations, you're an extremist? I hope not. We still have today, and this is the best educated, brightest military force the world has ever seen, and bravest.
Right.
Everybody since 1973 has been a volunteer. And you think about it, ours is still the only country on earth that will send its sons and daughters around the world, not to fight for gold or colonial conquest or oil, but to protect us from enemies like those that attacked us on 9/11, and offer others the hope of freedom.
Yeah.
And we're still doing that. I mean, I think they've screwed it up to fairly well on how they're getting out of Afghanistan. I feel awful that they're not making sure that the Terps, as we call them, I did 60 plus embeds over there. And there were Terps, interpreters, or translators, with every unit, sometimes several of them. And you did not go out on a patrol without taking one with you. So they're remarkably brave. They committed their lives to this. Over 500 of them and their family members have already been murdered. And you're looking at 17,000 that are scrambling right now to get out. And this president could fix that with a stroke of one of his famous executive pens. All he has to do is order the State Department and the Pentagon to work together to evacuate the 17,000 plus the 50 or 60,000 family members and get them to safety. And even Jimmy Carter did that, offered refuge to 125,000 plus Cubans who came here in little boats, 50,000 Haitians. Well, these guys are certainly a hell of a lot more, if you will, worthy of coming here than any of those, or the people that they're letting in from God knows where.
Right.
There's going to be 1 million illegal refugees coming to this country, and they're crossing the border. Do something now while they still can. Just order them to waive the provisions of what's called the special immigration visa, okay? And allow them to get on military aircraft or charter aircraft, fly them to, let's say, Guam. We've got lots of military bases, just like Carter did. He did that in southern military bases, and screen them there. I mean, these are folks who already passed the security clearance. They've already demonstrated their courage and their bravery and their devotion to this country. For heaven's sakes, do not let them be part of a mass slaughter.
Right.
It was at the end of the Vietnam War in 1975.
It's such a crazy time that we're living through right now. It feels like we're watching the unraveling of the greatest country in the history of the world. It's just kind of coming apart at the seams. You see the people that live here. I've traveled around the world and they have no concept. They complain about things. I'm like, you have no idea how good you have it. They're like, if we're as bad as you think we are, why are there so many people waiting to get in? Like, it's ridiculous to even say some of the stuff that gets said. But, and I know you're a Christian, you're a man of God. When you look at Bible prophecy at the end times, there's no mention of America in there. So it makes you wonder what happens to us.
Well, look at it also says in the good book, we shall not know the time or the hour.
Right.
Or the hour, right?
Yeah.
And so I know where I'm going and I know why I'm going there. I just don't know when.
Right.
So, and I wanted to be gentle at the back end, if you would, Lord.
Sure.
Look at, you're absolutely right. The Judeo-Christian value system on which this nation was founded is now being abandoned. In fact, my most recent book has a big part of that. The book is called Veterans Lament. Is this the America our heroes fought for? And the bottom line of it is, it's not.
No.
It's not what we thought we were getting. And I'm deeply concerned that, look, my brothers and I are all what they call legacy appointments or legacy volunteers or legacy enlistments. That means you knew someone by name who was serving in the military, okay? And it was our dad. My dad never said to us, I don't think he said it to you, I know he didn't say it to me. My dad was a World War II hero, fought in Germany. And his unit was pulled out of Germany right after VE Day and sent back down to Mississippi to get ready to invade Japan. Okay, that's how committed those guys were. And thank God they didn't have to go, because Harry Truman, unlike this president, Harry Truman had a lot of guts and dropped the 2 bombs at the end of the war and saved probably 2 million casualties, 1 million on each side. The bottom line of it is that the guys in this war are not getting the kind of treatment that they deserve. We certainly didn't get it in Vietnam. When we came back from Vietnam, they told us, take off your uniforms and don't get on a civilian airplane wearing one, because, and I was on crutches, for crying out loud.
Right.
I had to go to the exchange at Travis Air Force Base when we flew back in on a 707. And we had to go buy a set of jeans and a jacket to go, because it was wintertime when I got back.
Yeah.
I mean, the problem in this country is the leadership. It's not people like you and me and the folks, listening and watching this podcast. It's the government of the United States is broken. I mean, if you look at what's going on at the White House and in both houses of Congress, the things that when we interviewed the 500 veterans for this book,
Yeah.
two Marines wrote the book, so you can figure, there's no bad language in it. But it deals with socialism, the Second Amendment, the rewriting of American history, the secular humanism that has taken over, where God has been replaced by government, and there's no doubt about that. Mm-hmm. The anti-Christian media, the censorship, the systematic racism. This president is, because you and I are white, we're racist. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And the disrespect for our flag. That's the things that those guys were talking about. It is so bad, Rob. At the end of the day, we're going back, and the sequel to this book is going to be about the whole issue of socialism. I mean, it's powerful what these folks, and they volunteered. And I'll tell you, the ones I've talked to about this whole thing about the Terps, they just, hold on. I mean, you don't have enough time to listen to all the commentary about, they not only deserve it, we deserve to have them come here and become American citizens. Right. They put their lives on the line, and they're going to be systematically murdered the minute we're gone. It's going to be mass mayhem.
So you've interviewed 500 veterans when you wrote this book, is that right?
Yeah, David Getch and I are both Marines, right? And so you can figure, these are Marines, you know where we're coming from. What do you think about those kinds of issues that I just ran through, which happens to be the table of contents?
Right.
And you don't have to push these guys hard at all. And there's no disrespect for the organs of government. It's the problem of what we're doing. Look at the problems that we're having educating our kids. I have 18 grandkids. Now, COVID threw everything upside down. At one point in time, we had, of the 18 grandkids, we would have 7 to 9 of them around the kitchen table, all trying to get up on a very narrow bandwidth media so they could go to classes. And now they're coming back into school finally in Virginia. I mean, our governor is in Virginia. It's just, where are you physically located?
Maryland.
Okay, well, you got Hogan.
Yeah, he it's funny because he's a Republican, but he kind of leans toward the center a little bit.
Oh, no. Yeah, there's no doubt. But at least you've got Hogan.
Yeah.
We've got a baby-killing, gun-grabbing race baiter as our governor, who, thank God, cannot succeed himself. But the idea that we would have this guy plus a legislature, the oldest legislative assembly in the Western Hemisphere, is right here in Virginia. And this guy is riding roughshod over the weak-kneed Republicans that we've got in the general legislature. I mean, it's just,
it makes you wonder how these people get in, like this governor of California, like who's voting for these people?
Yeah, or the governor of New York. I mean, think about it. I mean,
people are just leaving.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, they're coming here and bringing their politics with them. But that's why I keep saying, we're going to take all 17,000 of these Terps, bring them here to Virginia, because they'll look after us. I mean, these guys know what bravery is. They have common sense. In fact, most of them have got some not U.S. education, but education in English by taking online courses before they got recruited to become interpreters and translators.
Hard work.
They're amazing guys. In fact, University of Maryland, for many years, offered both undergraduate and graduate courses to people overseas, and now they're doing it online. It used to be by correspondence. We'd get to Rhoda, for example, leaving the United States. It's 11 days across the Atlantic as a Marine battalion landing team. And when we got to Rhoda, all these guys that have been working on their not online, but their program texts had to send in the tests, and we had to race to the mailbox to get the tests in time. Nowadays, it's all done online, and University of Maryland's still one of the big leaders on it, the global campus.
So before I ask you the next question and we change topics, is there anything that anyone could do if they're watching this and they want to support this initiative to get these guys over? Can they write like their congressman, or what should they do?
Good, very, very good point, Rob. Here's what they need to do. Need to write to both U.S. senators and to their congressmen and demand that they bring these people to safety. And I said, Guam is a perfect place to do it if you wanted to. If this president would simply do that, demand that both senators and their congressmen contact the president and order it. He can do that fast.
And it's the 18,000 Turks that served as interpreters in Afghanistan.
It's 17,000.
17,000. Okay. All right. Thank you. People reach out. What a travesty it would be if that happened.
Amen.
So where do you, is there any way to turn this around? Where do you see America in a few years from now? Do you think that we'll, figure it out, or how do we figure it out?
Well, I'm a chronic optimist, right? You'd have to be to have a life as exciting as mine. I don't know what the outcome is going to be, but I know how you can change it. And you change that by getting good candidates to run for public office at every level. This doesn't start with it by the time they get to Congress. The stuff that's happening in our Congress right now can be stopped.
Yeah.
We elect enough conservatives to public office in 2022. They can put the brakes on all this craziness that these guys are coming up with.
So crazy.
They can fix the problem by having the Congress flip, and it's very close. And it's the difference in 8 votes total in the House, and it's 50-50 in the Senate. And we can change that. First 3 were, I raised my right hand and took an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, over 100 times, right? Because every time I'd re-enlist somebody, every time I'd promote somebody, we would do that oath. Okay. By the way, that oath ends with the words, "So help me God," right? Before they change that again. I mean, that happened once before with a fellow by the name of Clinton. What I'm saying is the American people, we the people govern in this country. We the people have to act like it. We need good, if you will, conservatives, and preferably Christians, who are leading the fight to fix this country.
Yeah.
And I know a bunch of those guys. We just need a few more.
Yeah. I was watching some clips from the guy that was running for, or he is running for the mayor of New York, the black guy that used to be a cop, and he just makes sense. He's a Democrat. I'm like, okay, this isn't even a party issue, but he's like, look, we're going to bring safety back to New York. We're going to fund the police because people don't want to be, unsafe. And he's like, I'm going to carry a gun. All these people that are telling you don't carry a gun to church, he's like, they all got armed security, and guess what? They carry a gun.
Right.
And
on top of that, they don't go to church.
Right. Yeah, true. Exactly. But yeah, it's really just, to me, boils down, I feel like common sense. We just lost it somewhere along the way. Yeah. But anyway.
And we lost it because people did not do enough going out and finding the right kind of people to run for public office. And again, as you pointed out, it's not just in the Congress. It's in school boards. It's in county councils and city councils. It's mayors of little tiny towns and big towns. All of that kind of thing needs to begin now so we can change things in 2022.
What's your take on the current Middle East conflict?
Wow. Well, I think it's been mishandled by this administration. Look at the very first rockets that were fired and the very last rockets that were fired, and every rocket in between came from one country, Tehran, Iran. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps is a wholly owned subsidiary of the leadership of Tehran, in Tehran, by the Ayatollahs, and the IRGC provided those weapons to Hamas. All it would have taken to stop this thing on night number 2 is to pick up the phone and don't call Netanyahu and dump on him. He has to defend his country.
Right.
This is not something that was started by the Israelis. This was started by Hamas at the direction of the Ayatollahs in Iran. I've been there, done that, right? And the only thing he had to do was pick up the phone and tell them in Tehran, here's what's going to happen unless the rockets stop in 24 hours. Number 1, we're withdrawing the United States from these talks in Vienna. I'm redoing the so-called Iran deal and getting you guys nuclear weapons. That's number 1. Number 2, all of the prior sanctions are now back in effect this minute. Okay, which means we're not going to move your money when you buy Chinese oil. We're not going to allow your ships to transit certain areas that are close to us. All the sanctions that were on the Ayatollahs personally are now reinstated until the rockets stop. These guys desperately need Western money moved in and out of Iran, not for the people of Iran, because they don't benefit from it, but the Ayatollahs do. The so-called Supreme Council is the oldest, most senior guys. Every one of them is a vicious, radical Islamist. Okay, and they need to be told the rockets need to stop.
Right.
I just told you how he could have done it.
Yeah.
I pray it works right now, because the Abraham Accords that were put together in the prior administration, those kinds of things, the very close alliance that we have with Israel, both military and cultural and economic, very, very important to us. And on top of that, if you ever needed proof of how bad things could get, Look what you guys in Maryland went through and we went through here in Virginia, and still going through to a certain extent. When one pipeline in America gets shut down for a week, we're still digging out from that. Now, just imagine that we've now shown them that the White House has no real spine. We're going to appease everything. What happens when the Iranians, as they've done before, set mines out in the Straits of Hormuz and all those ships carrying oil can't transit?
Right.
If you think that the Columbia pipeline problem was bad, that was a picnic compared to what we're going to see if that happens.
Wow. You ever meet Trump?
Oh,
Sure.
Yeah. And I've known the man for, 10 years, maybe more. He's been a donor to my foundation that helps the military. If he had said to me 10 years ago, I'm going to run for president, I'd have said, wait a second, are you nuts? Because if you lose, and of course, the end result is already happening. They will ruin you. They will do everything in their power. But look what's happened. We had the best economy we've ever had. We had the lowest unemployment we've ever had. We had the most minorities get jobs and hard work and got good paychecks. The pay actually went up. It didn't go down like the left said it would. All the good things were happening domestically, and all the things that were happening like the Abraham Accords internationally. Okay, all of that stopped. And now happened yesterday. New York Attorney General and the Attorney General of Manhattan have announced they're going after Trump personally and criminally. They are trying to ruin this man. That's never happened before. Other presidents have done a single term and gotten out. Carter is an example.
Yeah.
Okay. Other people have completed 2 terms, but nobody ever, even Richard Nixon, they didn't chase Richard Nixon down and try to destroy him.
Right.
He resigned from office to avoid the fiasco over, what happened at the Watergate.
Right.
I look at, Rob, I'm telling you, these guys in Washington today are totally dysfunctional. They're radical leftists, and they truly intend to ruin Donald Trump, his entire family, if they can.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. I wonder sometimes, is it sinister, or they just have a different belief system than, me?
No, there is such a thing as evil.
Right.
Okay. And there's a lot of them who are evil. There is no doubt of it. Look, Satan is still hard at work. The world, the flesh, and the devil is where bad things happen, right?
Yeah.
And so these guys now intend to install in America their vision of what this country should be. America does not have systemic racism. Americans are not bad people. We're the best people on the planet Earth. We're the most generous. We're the most open. Our society has benefited from free enterprise and capitalism. And they're out to undo all of that. This is Marxist in its origin.
The land of opportunity, that's why they call it that.
Well, that's why I got 18 grandkids. And my goal, one of my many goals in life, is that they will be protected to have the same rights and liberties you and I had, or certainly that I had growing up, and that they have the same kind of respect for government that I once had. I don't respect the people who are running our government today. Like I should.
Yeah. Well, I know you don't have much more time, so I just want to mention your newest book is called Veterans Lament, and it's and his library of real American heroes videos are available at olivernorth.com. Thank you so much for coming on. I really enjoyed speaking with you. It's been a true honor.
Semper Fi, and pray for America.
Okay, Colonel North. Thank you.